and my last name is Dudka. Marcus said it wrong. I'm saying it the Ukraine way, not the American way. Mnie zовут Dwayne Dudka. Как вас зовут? They говорят по-русски. See, I was the one that could speak a foreign language. But anyway, when I first started going, I was going to orphanages, and we went to a very poor orphanage over there, but one that was allowing one of our Ukrainian preachers to go in and teach classes. Well, I went there, and my friend said, Dwayne, I want to show you their bathroom. They've got one bathroom for all the kids, and there are about 50 or 60 kids. We took me outside, and there was a shed that was completely open on the front, dirt floor, and a hole in the ground. That was their bathroom. Can you imagine having to go to a bathroom like that, outside, with just a hole in the ground? And when I first started going, everywhere you went, the toilet paper was brown already. And it looked like a paper bag that was just rolled in a row, and it felt like a paper bag. So my second time of going, I took toilet paper. I took more toilet paper and I took clothes. But anyway, as we went, year after year, things got better because we were making them better. We put money into the orphanages and helped them get new restrooms and so forth. And then the war started. Can you imagine, even at your age, having missiles go over your head and hear them explode, hitting buildings around you? Can you imagine having to go down in a basement where there's no lights, there may be a few rats in it, but you got to stay down there all day in order to keep from being blown up? Could you imagine some of these Russian soldiers who were bad? Now, there were good Russian soldiers too, but some of the bad ones went into villages and they raped all the children, male and female, raped the mothers. The dads were all off to war. And then some of the villages, they killed them and left them laying in the streets. That's war. Now, for my part, I couldn't go back over there during the war. The United States would not let me go actually after COVID started. But I took action and started calling people over there I knew by. After 15, 20 years, I knew a lot of people over there, had some good friends. Called a fella in their capital city and said, if I could send you thousands of dollars, what would you do with it? He said, I'd get me some van drivers and we'd get refugees out of here and depose them. I said, can you also go to the orphanages? He said, yes, I'll do it. So I sent him several $1,000s and he started transporting. Before I knew it, I had to buy them all bulletproof vests to drive the vans, and they carried machine guns because they never knew when they were going to run into Russian soldiers as they were trying to flee the country. The country wouldn't let out any men 18 years to 60 years old. If you were in that age bracket, you had to stay in the country and fight. You could not leave. Well, I know one fellow that's got asthma real bad. He couldn't go fight because of his health, but they wouldn't let him out. He tried to sneak out of the country. He was arrested and put in jail. He got bailed out of jail, and then he went to trial. They found that he was too bad to fight on the front line where they wanted to send him. So they sent him back to another city for them to decide what to do with him. We still don't know what's going to happen with him. His older sister is our interpreter over there, and even though I can speak a lot of the language, I can't speak it well enough yet to do all my own talking over there. When I preach, I have to have somebody standing beside me interpreting. But anyway, there was this lady who found me on the internet. And she asked me, is there any way you can help me and my family? We've run out of money, we've run out of food. We live in a small village, told me the name of the village. So I looked it up on the computer, found it was about 50 miles from Kremenchuk, which is the city I'd been going to when I first started. So then I called my interpreter and asked her about this. I told her the girl's name. She said, oh, you know her. I said, I do. She said, yeah, she was in the orphanage that we first took you to when you started coming here. She said, you got pictures of her in your computer. And she said, ask her if she has two sisters, and gave me the sister's name. This woman who called me was Snoz Hannah. They've got some weird names over there, I know. But Snoz Hannah ended up being a kid that was in the orphanage when I first started going. She didn't know that she knew me. I didn't know that I knew her. That's the way God works. I sent her $500. By the way, let me back up here. When I send money, I don't mail it. I send it through Western Union or by bank transfer. Well, bank was charging us money. Western Union at first didn't charge any, so I used Western Union over and over again. And then they decided to start charging, and they were charging 3 times what the bank was, so I went back to the bank. But anyway, I sent her $500. She was so thrilled with it. You know what she did besides buying food for her family? She didn't go to the movies. She didn't go buy candy bars. She bought seeds and hired a tractor to come plow some ground so she could plant seeds so she would have enough food to feed her entire village this summer. Now, how many people in America would do that? Especially during a war. You would? Thank you. I'm glad somebody would. I'm going to have to live close to you now in case there's a war here and I don't know where to get food. But anyway, since then this girl has contacted me every day since I sent her that money. And that's how thankful she was. Of course, she found out that she knew me too, and it just blew her mind that she just happened to find us on the internet. And to this day, we've sent somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. I don't know exactly how much because we've sent it so many different ways, and I've not been able to put all my stuff together and figure it all out yet. But you might wonder, where's the money coming from? Paragould Christian Church isn't financially wealthy enough to give me that much money to send, and I don't have that much to send. And Joseph sure doesn't. But anyway, I get it from people all over. There's people in our church that have given $100, $200 at a time. My mama sent me $500. My sisters sent me over $700. My other sister sent me $500. I'm just getting it from here. And then my mama told her church about it. She goes to a big church in East Tennessee. They sent me a check for $5,000. But the day before they sent that to me, I wired $5,000 over there. And so, my funds were about depleted that I could send, so they were replenished immediately. And then I went on a trip to East Tennessee, and they wanted me to talk to them on Wednesday night. You know how many people we have on Wednesday night at Paragould? Usually about 22. Yeah, and half of it's our family. Joseph's family, especially, there's 5 of them. What? Yeah. We have over 20 of them. But anyway, Haley's doubting what I say. Don't anyone else do what Haley does. I'm going to take care of her later. But anyway, there's no way we could have much of an offering for Ukraine on Wednesday night at our church. But at their church, they had 200 people on Wednesday night, and they took an offering of $3,000. And I think that's amazing that one church, they were giving $8,000 to go to Ukraine. And believe me, I spent every bit of it. Now, besides this guy in the capital city of Kiev, I also have a young preacher, younger than Marcus, a lot younger than Marcus. He's getting old now. I don't even see one young enough, but maybe Joseph's age or younger. Anyway, this young preacher, where am I going with that? Oh yeah, in western Ukraine. I got lost in my mind. I didn't know where it was. Now I know this is church camp, isn't it? Okay, don't laugh at me. I fall down a lot and hit my head, and I've got brain disease now, or a damaged brain. But this young preacher, I called him. I use Facebook Messenger to call over there. You can call anywhere in the world with that, as long as you can find somebody that can speak English. And I knew this guy could. He couldn't speak it real well, but he and I could communicate. And I asked him, I said, what can you do with money if I send it? He said, we need it at the church. I said, I want to help the people of Ukraine, not help your church. He said, oh, well, we're turning a building we have, a big metal building about this size, only it's enclosed. He said, we're turning it into a refugee stopover place for refugees who are going to Poland, because they're close to the Polish border. And it takes hours to get across the border, so people need a place to spend the night. So I sent him money to finish that project up. And then I sent him some extra money. I said, if I send you this, can you take it to this village, Senanak or something like that, that's the name of it. And that village is where there's a politician. He's kind of the mayor over the village, and he likes my wife for some reason. He bought her a necklace and bought her a bracelet, and he gives it to her right in front of me, and that's fine. He's my age. But anyway, at first I didn't trust this guy at all because he was a politician. But I learned to trust him over a few years. And so anyway, I told him, I said, take that money. I told him how many thousands to take it. I said, take it to that politician and have him take it to a rehabilitation home for men. They had 300 men in that home who were all developmentally disabled. That means some of them were kind of crazy, some of them couldn't walk good. There were all kinds of problems there. But when he first took me to that home a few years ago, I fell in love with it, with the people there. I just felt right at home with those crazy people. I can't help it, I did. And then I found another disability place in Kiev that was all women. I fell in love with them too. Even got me a girlfriend there. Ugliest woman I've ever seen in my life. I mean, she was ugly. Her eyes were kind of crossed. She had like horse teeth. But she liked me. I don't know why, but she liked me and wanted to stay with me the whole time I was there, every time. Then there's this little, what's the name of these kids that have Down syndrome. Oh, Down syndrome kid. Well, they told me she doesn't like people touching her. She doesn't like touching people. I said, okay. Well, she came up to me, stood on my feet, held my hands, and wanted me to dance with her. And, you know, this little girl. And I did. Those people, they were just amazed. Well, I talked to the director there. I said, what's your name? She said, Mrs. Dudka. She had the same last name as me. Well, my family's from Ukraine. That's why I started going there. And so, anyway, I said, Ocean Priatna. I'm glad to meet you. Learn that word, Marcus. Ocean Priatna. It's easy to say, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Say it.
Ocean Priatna.
Oh, you did good. He said, nice to meet you. Okay, but anyway, I kept sending money over there to take supplies to these people. Within something changed. The Russians surrounded Kiev. Our vans couldn't get out. So the money I sent from that point on went underground. And by underground, I mean that whole city has a series of tunnels under it that people were staying in to keep from being bombed. Missiles were going over their head every day and hitting buildings that I had been in. And it nearly broke my heart seeing these buildings destroyed, apartment buildings being destroyed, and people killed. They did not care if it was little children or babies or mothers. They didn't care. They killed them all. Well, we started taking food underground to those kids and those mothers that were there. And then I sent them more money. I said, help the soldiers out there. So he took food to the soldiers. And you know what happened? The Russian soldiers started surrendering to them because they were hungry. Putin, their president who caused this war, didn't send enough food with them to feed his own soldiers. So they started giving up and going to the Ukrainians and saying, we're hungry. You know what the Bible says? If you're hungry, give you something to eat. And that's what those Ukrainians did. They gave them their sandwiches. And they even let them use their cell phones to call their mamas back home. And some of them started crying. Some of them said, we'll fight with you. We don't even know why we're fighting against you. And so they turned and started fighting against the Russians too. Russians against Russians. And Russian tanks started running out of diesel fuel. And they were just stuck there, so the Ukrainians went and put diesel in them, but then they took the tank too. Smart. And then the United States sent them a bunch of missiles to shoot down the planes. You know what? The Russians started shooting their own planes down. They really did. And I've had letters that people have written from Mariupol, that name of it? Huh? Mariupol, city in southern Ukraine that has been hit the worst. And that's where they shot the Russian ship out of the water. But this city, I read a letter from a lady that was hiding in a basement and decided she had to get her and her kids out of there. They had already destroyed nearly the whole city. Almost every car in the city was destroyed. But fortunately, she found her car untouched. And she got in it, it started, and they started leaving, and missiles were going over their heads. They were scared. But they got out of there safely because they were praying.
Amen. And
many times we feel sorry for ourselves and look at our own problems. Folks, none of us have any problems compared to these kids in Ukraine and these young parents in Ukraine and these elderly people in Ukraine. Got an old man in Kiev that I've been wondering about a lot. I don't know how to check on him because I don't even know his name, but he's a disabled general. And he sits and begs for money all day. And I'll go and sit and talk to him and give him money. And he and I have become friends even though I don't know his name because I can't talk to him real well because I don't know enough Ukrainian or Russian to speak. And everyone in that country knows both languages. You have to know both Russian and Ukrainian to live there. The news media is wrong. They always get on the news and say everyone speaks Russian and Ukraine is for Russia. That's a total lie. There's maybe 3 people in the entire country that speak Russian that is for Russia. The rest of them are against Russia. The very first time I went to Russia or to Ukraine, I tried to check in the hotel and they wouldn't let me. And there's a big argument between my interpreter and the person at the desk of the hotel. Finally, my friend said, Anya, what's the problem here? She said, he is, and pointed to me. I said, why me? Well, I didn't do anything. She said, because your name is Dudka. They want to know if you're a Russian Dudka or a Ukrainian Dudka. She said, they need to know where your family is from. And so I said, Ternopil, Ukraine. So they told the lady that I was from Ternopil, Ukraine, and it was okay, I could stay. If I said Russia, she would have kicked me out of there. I would have been staying on the street while the rest of our missionaries were getting to stay in a hotel. Now, the public restrooms in our hotel still had hose in the floor. If any of you have ever been to Europe, you may have seen these. The hotels all over Europe now pretty much have American toilets because Americans travel more than any other country. Yes, I've used a lot of those ceramic toilets that have a hose in the floor, no seat to sit on. But anyway, you get used to some things there. And for breakfast, you know what they serve you with your eggs? Slaw. Cabbage. It's not like our slaw either. It's almost just raw cabbage ground up and that's it, right? They may put a little something in it, but it's... The first time I tried it, my stomach hurt all day, so I thought no more raw cabbage for breakfast for me. So I learned how to say everything you could possibly think of to eat. And so now I can order in a restaurant. And I can call somebody a chicken because I know how to say chicken in their language. And I can say fish, Ariba. And Ariba in the Dnieper Richka means fish in the Dnieper River. And so I can talk to people.
All right.
I may talk like a kid because I can't make full sentences sometimes. But what I really love is the magazine Igluski.
We've gone to the
Marcus,
point.
what's a magazine Igluski?
We've gone to the point. So yeah, let's
take
end
a
the video.
guess.
See you
Probably a
later.
sports magazine.